Hey, Rick, what did you eat last night?
I came back to one of my staples, which is a quinoa bowl. So basically quinoa with black beans, arugula, cilantro, avocado, a little bit of barbecue sauce, some red pepper, and of course, topped it with a fried egg.
Love the fried egg.
It's one of my go-tos. Super simple.
It's funny. Your voice always sounds so sad when you describe a healthy thing you ate.
Because it's generally associated with the fact that I didn't get to have what I just want.
I feel you.
How about you? What'd you eat?
Well, once again, we are on the same wavelength because my dish involved eggs also. But eggs were the main thing of my dish because my friend Carrie brought me these beautiful eggs from a farm that his friend owns. And he knows the chickens. Carrie knows the chickens that these eggs come from. And they're just gorgeous to look at. And they have those amazing bright yellow yolks that farm fresh eggs have.
Oh, yeah.
And they're so delicious. So that was what I had last night and it was amazing.
Nice. I love when people know the food they eat.
Yes, absolutely. And you know its origin, and you know the chicken that your egg came from, and you know that chicken is having a healthy life and a happy life, and it's really, really important and beautiful.
Hi, welcome to another episode of You Won't Believe What I Ate Last Night. I'm Rick Fiore.
And I'm Kate DeVore, and this is our ongoing conversation about food, health, weight management, and our endeavor to be and stay healthy in a really tasty world.
With love, kindness, compassion towards ourselves and others.
Hi there. The first thing we want to say is that we know a lot of you guys are out walking or walking your dogs during this podcast while you're listening to us. So we hope that you're having a lovely walk. And please pet your dogs for us because we love them. Who's to your right now, Rick?
Oh my God. My sister's dogs, Dobby and Mikey. And
they're Chihuahuas.
Chihuahuas. And I was just looking at them and Dobby is just lying on the ground. He's actually almost pretty much blind at this point. Mikey just walked over, licked him on his behind, and then just sat right next to him, laid his body right next to him. So they're sort of head and butt, end to end. It's so cute.
They're a little puppy yin and yang.
Because isn't that really what anyone wants during the day is just someone to come, pet him, and lie next to him.
Just pile up like little puppies. Totally. Yeah, so enjoy your walk. If you follow our Facebook page, you will know that Rick and I were just in Boulder together, and we found a restaurant there called Riffs that we liked so much that we went back to it. Was it 3 times, I think? We went there.
I think I stopped counting.
We were only there for like 3 days, and yet we went to Riffs constantly. We were there for dinner, we were there for lunch, and then we were there for like drinks and a snack one day. Yeah. So we loved it. It was so great. So, Rick, overall, would you say you enjoy a restaurant meal?
Yeah, I'm going to weigh in on the yes side of that I really adore eating out.
Do tell.
Well, I do it so much. And I particularly enjoy eating out with friends.
It's the best.
Particularly on vacation. And, you know, what's so great about that restaurant is that to me is like when eating out, it just really fires on all cylinders. They have great combinations of food. They have a lot of variants. And then they also have really great cocktails. And they have a lot of stuff that I can personally eat since I don't eat meat anymore.
Totally. Really creative and good service. And it was pretty in there. Like it's all the stuff you're looking for.
Totally. We sat indoors. We sat outdoors. So you got to check it out at some point. Yeah. I really liked the availability on the menu to sort of just pick and choose something that really was really tasty to me. Like when I read a menu, I was just so intrigued. I'm always like, oh God, like it just is dripping with like flavor and taste. Made me so happy.
What kinds of things catch your eye on a menu? What are you drawn to when you're ordering?
Oh, that's such an interesting question. Well, I'll always do a very quick scan of the main dishes because that's going to tell me if a restaurant actually has something substantial and viable that I can eat.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so I'll always look for a pasta and I'll look for a fish dish. And then if they don't have anything interesting, that always determines, well, then I need to focus more heavily on the apps. And then I'll go back and read the apps. And then once I figure out maybe an app that I want, I'll come back and then decide on the main dish. And then I sort of work out in my head, you know, where I'm going to land. If I'm going to get just an app or I'm going to get both the app and the main entree. How about you?
And are you a sharer or not so much?
I am a sharer. I like to be a sharer. It's unfortunate that I don't eat meat because unfortunately, a lot of people like to eat meat. So when I can, yes, I'm definitely up for sharing because it's one of the easiest ways, right? To try and taste everything and not have to actually eat everything.
Not eat everything. Huh.
What a strange
I'm making
concept.
I'm making a note.
Yeah, stick with me, Kate. I'm really going to come up with the great advice today.
Yeah, so we've been talking amongst ourselves about some of the challenges of dining out, and we've actually had a couple of people ask us about advice or suggestions for maintaining a healthy diet when you go to a restaurant. So that's what we're here to talk about right now.
Yeah. And so one of the first things I think I always like to think about is when I sit down at a restaurant is I really just try to really think about how much do I want to eat? Because I've sort of made this decision in the last couple of years that I will always, I'm always going to try and get a main dish, and then I like to get an app, and then I also like to get dessert. So lately I've really been deciding that I can either only have just an app and then the entree, or the entree and dessert. Like I can no longer do both because it's just way too many calories for me. So that's just always a place I land right when I sit down. So I'll look over everything, particularly the desserts, because then, it's easy to look at desserts and be like, oh, I don't want any of that, because I'm not always excited about desserts. I'm really excited about appetizers because I have more success there.
Totally. Although I just took Star to this great place here in town for her birthday, and all the desserts look kind of really uninteresting. And we were full anyway and whatever. And the one that looked the least interesting was called a tofu bake or something. It was a dessert. It was something with the word tofu in it. And we were like, well, we looked at the menu. We're like, well, we definitely don't want this one. And then we looked at the others, and the one we wanted, they were out of, and so we're like, nah. And then because it was her birthday, this was one of those places that still brings you a free dessert because, you can't count on that anymore,
Yes.
know? But, remember in college, we used to pretend it was our birthday. Didn't we do that?
We did.
Oh, I feel guilty about that a little bit, but it was like TGI Friday, so I can get over it.
And
but,
Bob's Big Boy, wasn't it Bob's Big Boy or something?
I don't remember doing it at Bob's. That's crazy. But so they were like, and for your birthday, we brought you this tofu bake thing. They brought us the tofu dessert. We were like, oh, thank you. But it was so freaking good because the restaurant was so good. Yeah, this was that Duck Duck Goat place that Stephanie Izard, that amazing chef here who has a place called Girl and the Goat. And now she has a Chinese place called Duck Duck Goat. And the way the server said, yeah, we need to change the title of that because I'm like, yeah, you really do. It sounds nasty. She's like, I know. No one understands.
Every time you talk about that restaurant, all I want to do is go.
Oh my gosh. I know. You so do. It's crazy. Yeah. So anyway, tangent about dessert.
Are you a sharer?
Oh yeah. I love the sharing. I really, really do. Every now and then I go somewhere because I want one thing and I just want that thing and I don't want to share. I don't want you to eat any of it. I mean, a bite, but you know what I mean? I want to eat that whole thing. But for the most part, if I had my choice, I like tapas. I like small plates. I don't love when it's I'll eat half and then we'll trade plates.
Yes.
That's a little annoying and cumbersome. I don't prefer that.
Totally.
I want to have my own plate. But yeah, I do like you said, my favorite meal is a small amount of a lot of things.
No.
Little,
Perfectly said.
how when I do our cheeses and stuff, when we have our, coffee table meal, I always love that. And, the thing is, we were just talking about this too. We know perfectly well how to order properly. We just don't do it. We know what we should order. We should order a lean protein and a vegetable and no starch.
Right.
And, theoretically, it'll still be fattier and saltier than you would make at home, therefore more flavorful.
And your salad should have a light dressing, not a heavy ranch or blue cheese.
Or just you should ask for oil and vinegar and apply it yourself.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which is actually tasty. And when I was at my best behavior, that's what I would do. I would ask for olive oil and balsamic on the side, and I would just add it myself. One
of the things you make me think about right now, which is so interesting, is I eat out and I still see eating out as a treat and just such a pleasure, and it's so decadent and I'm so excited. But I'm just so fascinated that I think that considering how much I actually eat out. I mean, you would think I only eat out once a month the way I go at it. I'm like, ooh, what am I going to get when I eat out? But I eat out
Isn't that hilarious? I was just thinking that. Yeah. I was like, it still feels like such a special occasion. And I do think that's the thing. There's a switch in my brain that it would be helpful to flip. That this is part of my life. Plainly, I eat out.
Yeah.
And so this is just part of my life now. And so I have to manage that with a little more sanity.
Yeah. Got to manage yourselves in restaurants, man. Super important.
Honestly, I also lately have been finding I'm having a major over ordering problem.
Really?
Like, look at when we were in Boulder, remember? I like, by the time my entree arrived, I'm like, and I'm full.
Yes.
Every time.
Yeah.
And I had that pork loin that I could never eat. I had these leftovers of this beautiful pork, and the whole trip, it became a joke about how I had to eat the pork that was in our hotel room that I never did. And I feel so guilty that the little piggy died in vain. I feel really horrible about that.
Because that was a pretty pig on a plate. I can only imagine how cute it looked in real life.
Rick.
I'm going to throw that one up to altitude, though, because that was our first night there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And altitude is hard. Your digestion slows. So, yeah.
It's true. But I think checking my hunger level before ordering, because it happened when Star was here this past weekend, too. Like, I really need to not over order because I do like to share an appetizer. That's my ideal scenario, is share an appetizer, have an entree, or however you manage the entree, but the equivalent of an entree, and share a dessert. That would be like the ideal amount. But even that is way too many calories for me.
I can tell you.
Way too many.
I can tell you, I often do a hunger check when I sit down at a restaurant, and I am blown away by how many times I ignore it. Like, I actually feel like I'm pretty present with that idea. I'm like, well, yeah, you could be mindful about anything. I'm going to be mindful about being mindful about how hungry I am, and then, choose to be mindful about ignoring it. It's the best.
Yeah.
And it's because I just want to sample it all. It's so crazy. It is like that proverbial child in a candy shop.
Really?
Yeah. I was just going to jump back to something you said about sharing. One thing I wanted to throw in is, a lot of times I don't often not want to share because I'm getting one dish. I get a very personal reaction that I just want what I want to myself. It has nothing to do that I actually want the whole dish. And I'm always struck by how many times I'm like, Rick, you're literally going to say you're not sharing. You're at a table with 4 other people and you're going to say you don't want to share. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. And it has something that I'm generally going to be feeling a little pouty. I'm going to be feeling a little vulnerable. I'm like, I just want what I want. And that's it.
Well, it's comforting. It's like eating in a restaurant is like a security blanket in a way, right?
Yeah.
It's like it's soothing. There's something about it that feels like a reward, a treat. I'm taking care of myself. I'm treating myself. I'm being nice to myself because I deserve it. And so I've worked hard.
Have you ever heard about that tip where you order your dish and then you ask the person waiting on you to put half of it in a to-go container right away and just bring the other half out?
I was going to talk about that.
Really? So in sync today, Kate.
I was. So obviously, that feels to me like wearing a mask on an airplane. Like, yes, that's a good idea. It's probably better for your health, but come the fuck on. Like, it just seems, I just can't ever.
Yeah.
But what I do see people do, I see a lot of women that I go out to eat with, they will order whatever they want. They'll order the burger, they'll order something normal, and then they will cut it in half and push half of it to the side of their plate. And then they just won't eat it. And then they'll take it home. So that's like the less socially weird way of doing that, I think. The thing is, they're able to not touch it on their plate.
Have they tied their hands behind their back? I'm sure, right?
They appear to simply be able to manage themselves.
Which is all I really want. Oh, God.
Yeah.
That's great. That's a great skill. I'm going to try that. Yeah, right.
I know, right?
It reminds me of all those times when I would go out with people and you get a burger is a great example. And they're like, do you want salad or fries? You're like, oh
my God.
And the other person will say, oh, I don't need anything, just the burger, please. And then my burger comes and I, of course, get fries. And then they sit there and eat my fries the entire time. And I finally asked someone, and they're like, why are you doing that? Well, they're like, well, I just eat less fries that way. I'm like, well, there you go.
Is that one of those things that the calories don't count if you eat it off someone else's plate?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Valid rule.
My dad used to insist that the calories don't count if you eat it standing up in the kitchen.
Oh,
I know, Papa. Yeah.
I was just thinking how often with leftovers, I will eat my meal and I'm often compelled to just finish whatever someone else has on their plate. even though I'm not hungry. And I think it does somehow go back to this thing we've talked about before, which is I was just raised, you finish everything on your plate, right? Nothing goes to waste. And it can't even just be put in the fridge for leftovers. Like, you have to finish it. So I still find myself when I eat out, I secretly, when people ask me if I want to split something and I sort of know where they're leaning, I'm going to say, no, let's not split it. I'll just get my own thing, because I know perfectly well that they're going to have leftovers and I'll just eat it at the end.
That's pretty strategic.
Well, leave it to me, Kate.
I'm going to observe this behavior from now on.
Oh, it's never happened with you. No worries.
No, of course not. No, present company excluded, of course. Yeah, no, Natch, right.
Exactly.
Yeah, totally.
If I can just throw in one thing, which is about leftovers, one thing I am going to try is, if you go to restaurants, this is a really great sort of eco thing, is to start to bring your own your takeout container and just put your leftovers in your own personal Tupperware container or plastic bin. I just think that's a really great idea. I've seen people doing it, and I'm going to do it in the event that I actually have leftovers.
You let me know how that goes.
Kate's just shaking her head.
That's in the same category for me as the mask on the airplane. It's a great idea. I really get it. I just can't. But leftovers is an interesting topic there, because I do feel strongly about not wasting. I feel strongly about animals not having died in vain. If I'm going to eat them, then I damn well, I mean, if I'm going to order them and they're going to be killed for me, I damn well better eat it.
Yeah.
And, we paid for it and it's expensive, so all of those things in a restaurant particularly factor in. At home, it's easier. And then there's, if you're going out to a movie, the leftovers are going to spoil. So it's like, well, it won't last in the car. We better finish it, or
Totally.
whatever. And then there's definitely, in a sort of higher echelon of social status than you and I belong to, it's tacky to ask for leftovers.
You're right. Yeah.
And my mother gets embarrassed in if I ask for leftovers in a lot of places.
Really?
Like, she doesn't want to do it. Yeah. Which was ironic when we were in Turkey and she had the meat bag. Remember about the meat bag? She would carry in her purse a Ziploc bag so that we could put meat in it to feed the street cats. That was okay. Sneaking meat into her purse at the table was okay. But asking for leftovers for them to wrap it up was not acceptable.
I love that. It just reminds me of the Golden Girls and how Sophia always had that freaking wicker purse on her arm. She's just always shoving stuff into the wicker purse.
Exactly. Yeah. So, right, the leftovers thing, if it works out, it's a great idea. I think that is really the best strategy for me, because I also have a thing about, I don't want to order anything in a restaurant that I can cook or that I do frequently cook. And I cook a lot, and I cook well. And so it limits my ordering. And so that's one of the reasons that I'm like, I'm not going to order a chicken breast and a side of broccoli in a restaurant and pay $17 for that. That's ridiculous. So that's a big element of it. And so I think I'm unlikely to really change that, and rather I need to order whatever I want, but control the amount of it I eat. That has to be my solution.
This is a moment on the podcast I like to call friend feedback. And this is what I'm meaning to tell you. Yeah, I've actually learned that from you. Yeah. This whole idea of, when you look at a menu, try not to order anything that you, one, get a lot of, or two, can cook at home. It's a really sort of great idea. Yeah. But that's hard for me to practice, because I tend to gravitate. I don't, when I sit down to order, I'm just like, what do I want? Like, if I can, it's really hard for me to sort of process and categorize, the best way to do things sometimes.
Yeah. Well, if you want it and that's really what you want, then that's fine.
That's why I like to keep you around, Kate. You're full of little tidbits like this.
I earned my keep.
You do. It's so cute.
All right, so we're going to transition now, and we're going to hear from our regular listener, Krista, who's going to tell us a fun story about what she ate. And then we're going to come back with another interesting segment, behind the scenes expose about some things that go on in the restaurant industry.
Hi, Kate and Rick. This is Krista from Phoenicia, New York, and you won't believe what I ate last night. Last night, my friend Kristine and I went to a performance of Kiss Me, Kate at an outdoor music festival. The theme of the festival this year was Shakespeare and the British Isles, so we did an English-themed picnic. We had assorted English cheeses, bread, Marmite, English pickle, apples, pears, cucumbers, and fresh figs. And for dessert, homemade shortbread. We accompanied this with a nice red wine. I know that a classic gin martini would have been more fitting with the theme, but we did want to actually make it to the end of the show. And of course, we did not sit on the ground for this picnic. We had a chair and tables and some beautiful linens, and I even transported my grandmother's fine English china and crystal for the event. It was a lovely show, a fabulous dinner, and that's what I ate last night. Thanks, you guys. Love the show.
Hey, Kate, can I tell you about this book I'm reading?
Yes, please.
So I am reading this book called Behind the Kitchen Door. It's this really great book written by Saru Jayaraman. And she basically wrote this entire book about all of the people that work behind the scenes in restaurants. And she became really popular like right after September 11th because there was that famous restaurant in the Twin Towers that fell called Windows on the World. And she was hired to help relocate all these service workers. And so she started this cooperative called Rock United, which is the Restaurant Opportunity Centers United. And it's just this really great organization that lobbies for all these people that work in our restaurants. And I thought this was so interesting because of how much we eat out and plus obviously the podcast. There are a couple of things that she brought to my attention that I just found shocking, I tell you.
I can't wait.
The first one
am I going to be sad?
Yeah, a little bit.
All right.
Probably quite a bit.
I have to readjust then. Okay. I was all excited. I thought it was going to be fun. Okay. I'm ready now.
Well, the first one is that even though you leave 20% for a waiter, there's a strong chance, particularly the nicer the restaurant is, that the restaurant itself is going to be taking up to 40% of that 20% tip just because they can.
Wait, I don't understand.
That restaurant owners, they can take whatever percentage of the tip you want. That's sort of the working contract that you come in with.
I thought that the agreement was a tip was basically to make up for the fact that these people weren't being paid a proper wage to begin with and that we had to make it up with our tipping.
That is the idea behind it, yes. But that is not what happens.
A restaurant takes the tips. I'm sure all the people who are servers are listening to this like, yeah, but I am shocked. I'm truly shocked by that.
Yeah, so am I. I was really blown away by it.
Now, you're not talking about tipping out, right? Like, because that's not what you mean. Like when
that before they do the tip out.
Yeah, a portion of a server's tips is shared with kitchen staff and busboys and that kind of thing. That's not what you mean.
No.
Well, I just don't know what to say to that.
Right? Well, I remember one of the first things when I first read this book, she had been in this battle with, what is his name? Mario Batali, because he opened that thing called, he opens a chain of restaurants, right? And he was one of the people that wasn't really doing everything he could for workers. So she took him to battle. And he really came around and got on her side. And now he's this really big advocate, right? For workers' rights. And that's really impressive. And I remember going to Italy in New York, this really great, that a really great restaurant and store up there. And I remember having read this book in
Chicago.
Oh, fun. And they keep thinking about wanting to bring one to DC. But of course, in DC, everything takes forever. I went and I sat down at the restaurant, at the bar in the sort of the cheese place. And I had just read this book and I actually got the balls up to ask this guy. I said, does that happen here? Cool. And he was shaking his hot head and he was very sheepish about it. But he said, yeah, they would take between 30 and 40% of whatever tip I leave. I was so upset.
What?
Yeah.
My mind is completely blown. That doesn't seem right at all.
At all. The other thing that was really staggering to me was that there's no paid sick leave, which I sort of felt like I knew, but to really see the statistics on it is pretty bad. So the reason one of the other reasons she became really popular is because she took on the Darden food chain, which is really has a lot of restaurants in the area. One of them, which is called, I don't know if I should say the name, but just imagine yourself in a garden with olives, and you might know the restaurant I'm talking about.
Very subtle, Rick. Well done. No, good thing you didn't say the name.
And so one of the things that happened is there was a worker that got sick and he couldn't take off because if you're a worker and obviously you don't get paid sick leave, you're going to show up. So
I don't like where this is going.
Yeah. And so they traced that what he was sick with led to 4,000 cases of customers being sick. So it was a huge scandal years ago. This is really in the years, I think, when that certain restaurant started to fail and they sort of reinvented themselves.
Wow.
And now they're doing better. But it brings up this whole idea that so many people are forced to work when they're sick because there's not paid vacation, there's not paid sick leave. And of course, there's no health insurance.
I wonder if
So
that's
she
what
does this
happened
whole
at
section.
Chipotle. Remember, like recently, Chipotle's had a whole series of problems like this. I wonder if that's related.
I wonder, another great example. It certainly sounds like it, because after all the drama, remember how they closed the restaurants all across the world for like one day to like redo all the training and whatever around the food or how people were. So I wonder. Yeah, so I thought, oh, that's really interesting. And it led me to this whole thing that according to the Department of Labor, 84% of sit-down restaurants inspected in the last 3 years were in violation of wage laws. Now, that means things like wage theft. So there's this other thing that goes on, that even though on your credit card you leave, I'm going to leave the tip, there's all these restaurants that just don't get the full tip to the employee. So that's another big drag.
Wait. Is that different from them taking a cut of the tip, you mean? So
that they're just not getting their entire tips that they get from the customer.
So they're already taking a cut, and then what's left, they're still not giving them? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Now,
so her organization...
Is this universal, this taking a cut of the tip thing? Or is this...
No. It's not. You can't say it's universal, but it's really restaurant by restaurant. And she made this really great thing about how the fact that... the nicer the restaurant is, you think the more likely they are going to be able to treat, the employees right. And that's generally not always the case. And she also said you would also think that mom and pop restaurants are the ones that are really going to be taking care of the employees. And she said statistically, that's also not the case. That mom and pop restaurants will be just as bad in relation to like how they treat their workers.
So what are we supposed to do? Are we supposed to slip people cash, like, and pretend it's not happening?
Oh my God, no, Kate. You know why?
No, why?
Because they're on to us. Because this is the thing. So take a really nice place, like whatever, I won't say a name, but
Olive
whatever.
Garden?
You go to a nice restaurant and they have good service and they have it down to a T about what they're going to do. So most people that are in the restaurant business have it figured out. What is going to produce between 18 to 20% tip? So say you wait on someone and say, they slip you 10 of cash, right? And they don't put it on there. The employee still has to record the cash tips, because if, say, an employee waits on someone and they only yield a 10% tip, the restaurant owners are coming to them to say, what happened? What rules didn't you follow? What protocols didn't you put in place? Because we know that statistically, if you do all this, it's going to yield like an 18 to 20% tip. So that's the other way they're catching on to, customers trying to pass cash. That they still have to record. Most restaurants, you still have to record the cash, because otherwise they'll be like, what did you do wrong that you're not getting 18% tip? It's really challenging.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So the big thing is, what's so great about this? This is what I loved. There's a lot of it that's overwhelming, but what she's not wanting to stop us from eating out, right? She wants us to eat out. She wants us to keep supporting these people, because the food industry, the server industry and the food in the restaurants is one of the fastest growing industries in the entire country. So towards the end of the book, she just does this really great thing about, if you really want to make a difference, what can you do? So she has this list of things, and they're very simple. Like when you sit down in a restaurant, talk to the manager, ask them over, tell them how much you love the restaurant, how much you love to support local businesses. And then you can just start asking questions like, do you provide sick leave, to your employees?
Well, then what do you do? What if they say, no, we don't provide sick leave, and yes, we take 40% of their tips? Like, then what?
Well, this is where she says then you're empowered to let them know that you like to support local businesses, or you like to support businesses that support this or do these things. And then it's up for you. But she doesn't want you to be super aggressive about it, right? But it is this idea of like you really understanding your power as a consumer when you eat out. That, you can call a manager over and ask what are their practices about sick leave and vacation leave, and do they offer work, health benefits, because it's really important to you that you support businesses that do that. So in a really great way, she sort of helps you, get your power back, or, have power in the situation. Because I have to say, the first time I asked that bartender at that restaurant in Italy, I was really nervous about it. I thought, oh no, I'm going to get in trouble. And I didn't even ask a manager. I just dealt, because I just wanted to get the 411 on a someone that works there. And I did it once at this restaurant I go to, a lot of family owned restaurant. And he said, no, unfortunately we don't pay sick leave, and we don't have health benefits. I'm like, oh, that's a bummer. I said, because it's really important to me that, places that I support, do that. So it was okay. A couple of times I did it. Thank you so much for listening. This episode is supported by the generous support of people like you. So if you'd like to support our endeavor, you can go to patreon.com/you-won't-believe-what-I-ate. And you can also go to our website and you can use the PayPal link on our website at you-won't-believe-what-I-ate.com.
Which we understand might be less cumbersome.
That's the rumor out there.
Word on the street is that's an easier way. Thank you, Lou. Yes, and of course, as always, please send us your questions. You can send us emails. You can send us MP3s. We would love to air them on the show. We've had a number of episode ideas that have come from you guys, and that's what we need because this is a conversation, really, and you're as big a part of it as we are. So follow us on Facebook, subscribe on iTunes and YouTube. We're about to start to have videos on there, so if you haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, check it out because it's about to get cooler. And also, we're on SoundCloud. Tell your friends, help them subscribe if they're old and don't know how or whatever, just don't know how. We're emailable, you won't believe what I ate at gmail.com. And of course, our website, you won't believe what I ate.com. Bye-bye.